Hello internet friends! My name is Madison. Welcome back to another episode of my knitting podcast. This is episode 8, and if you are new here, I am a web developer. I live in New York City and I spend all of my free time knitting and spinning and doing fibery things. So welcome and thank you for joining me today. In case you haven't seen any of my recent vlogs or videos, I am in a new apartment. I moved last week, so please bear with me with the white walls. It is driving me crazy being in such a sterile environment, just a little bit, but I am trying to be patient with the move-in and the settling in. My boyfriend moves in all of his stuff in a couple weeks, so once that happens, we will definitely be racing to get some things on the walls and make it look a little bit more like we live here and that it's not just some weird white room. Today I've got a few finished objects to share as well as a few whips, lots of things going on right here. And that's pretty much it. Last week with my move, it was a little hectic. I didn't get very much knitting time in, but this last weekend, after a few days of like only unpacking and organizing things, I was able to start sitting down and knitting, and also got my spinning wheel out again, which I feel like I haven't spun for ages at this point, so it's been good to kind of get into a new routine in the new space. As soon as I pulled my knitting back out last week, I remembered how relaxing and calming and nice it is to have. And I've been starting to think about spring and summer knits. Historically, I haven't made like summer specific knits. I tend to stick to 100% wool yarn. I've never made a knit cami or tank or anything. I don't know if that's gonna happen this year. I'm open, but I have a long list of sweaters I'd like to make, so I think I might just, use the summertime as a good time to just keep chugging along on all of those sweater plans so that I can have them ready by this next fall and winter. So I'll be sharing some of those spring and summer knitting plans soon. I haven't fully drafted up everything that I want to kind of have on that list, so that is still being thought out. Another quick thing that I wanted to mention before we dive into the knitting is I would love to do a knit and chat video soon and use it as a way to get to know you and for you to get to know me better. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop those down below in the comments. I would love to knit and chat with you. And selfishly, it's also a great excuse for me to work on a project. So with that, let's get into my finished objects. First up, I want to share my February socks that I finished. I will try not to talk about them too much because I talked about them in my last podcast episode. But the yarn is a sock set dyed by Woolberry. I believe the colorway was called Velvet, and it is part of the La Mercerie, which is the yarn store out in Washington State. They have a Year of Socks subscription, so each month they send out a sock set from a different indie dyer, and this was February's. Obviously, it's the end of March, so I'm a little behind. I have not started on March's sock set yet, but I have plans. I have plans for it. I'm really happy with how these turned out. I've been doing the DRK everyday sock pattern, and these have been blocked, but I still need to weave in the little ends. And yeah, I wear a size 10, so like whenever I make socks, I feel like they look super huge because I have big feet. That's just a side effect of being tall, which is fine. I made the women's medium size on a US 1 needle, and that is that. Next FO is very exciting. This has been a whip in the past few episodes, and it is my Long Last Pullover by Ailbíona McLochlainn. She is the designer. I was one of her pre-knitters. This pattern just came out last month, I believe. We were not required to finish the sweater for the pre-knit. We just needed to show some progress. And I finally finished up the sleeves this last week, and it's been blocked halfway. She recommends ironing it to really set the fisherman's rib open. So I have not done the ironing portion of the blocking yet, but it has been wet blocked. And you can see it here. Unfortunately, the weather in New York has already started to turn to spring, so I think it's a little too warm out now to wear this. So I will be saving it probably for next winter. I tried it on just before blocking it to make sure that everything was good to go, and I think I was wearing it for like 5 minutes and I was about to start sweating. So it is warm and cozy, which is great for winter time. I knit this in Nutiden. It's Nutiden held double in the colorway Morker, which was one of the patron exclusive colorways in December, I think. I actually didn't realize that it was a patron exclusive until after I bought it. And then I was like, oh, I just liked the color. And I saw there was a shop update and I'm a patron, so that's how that went. I knit the size 3 for the body and then actually only increased the arms to size 2. So the pattern is really nice. You can kind of like mix and match sizes in that way. Ailbíona makes it super easy to do that. It's intended to be a kind of oversized fit, and obviously with the fisherman's rib, it's very stretchy and squishy, very cozy, and yeah. I used the recommended needles, which was a US size 8 as the main needle, and then I believe I used a 6 for all of the kind of cuffs, and no other modifications. I followed the pattern pretty much to a T for the recommended body length and the sleeve lengths, and I'm really happy with how it came out. It was a lot of ribbing, but I think it's just so beautiful. I'm really, really excited. And this colorway of the Nutiden is also just really gorgeous. So, but it is hard to photograph. I have realized that in trying to like take photos for Ravelry. Oh, and that reminds me that if you need any further details, hopefully they're in my Ravelry page, which I link all of those below in the description box. Just a pile of knitting on my bed. Finishing up my Long Last Pullover really put me in the mood to finish up a lot of other whips, because I do have quite a few things on the needles that have been on the needles for a while, and I'll kind of like pick up different projects based on my mood and like, you know, everything's kind of moving along slowly, but I'm really feeling like I want to finish a lot of things right now before I cast on anything new. So I don't know if anyone else gets in those moods. Like I feel like I'll have a phase where I'm like, I want to cast on 3 new things right now, and then like give it a little while, and then I'll have a mood where I'm like, I need to get all of these projects wrapped up right now. So I'm in the like, let's wrap up a lot of these projects right now phase. I guess with that, I will start on the one that I'm most focused on right now, which I also feel like I've been talking about for a long time, because I casted this on in January of this year, and it's still going. I'm still working on it. and it is my Big Cozy Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I knew this project would be some serious marathon knitting when I started it, but now I'm ready for the marathon to end. So here's where I'm at, which is, you know, quite a bit of progress. I'm just over 2/3 of the way done with this. This is like the main body piece, and then there is a shawl collar that is in Surrey. And then I also have some like sleeve cuffs, I believe, that will also be in this yarn. So I'm getting there. I'm really determined to wrap this up before the end of April is my goal. So I'm at the point where I'm like making daily goals of I want to knit like at least an inch on here every day. And then that should get me in a good place. I think once I finish this portion, it'll be much quicker of a process, but this really is taking a while. But I'm excited about it. The yarn is Sock Hill Farm, their sport weight yarn. I picked that up at Rhinebeck this last fall. Then I have a Woolberry Surrey. This is the color. It's kind of like a purpley gray. This is, I think the base is Berry Surrey by Woolberry. And this will be the collar. So I'm excited about that. I think it's gonna be a cute combo. I really wanted a big neutral cozy sweater, so that is what this is gonna be. I'm knitting with the recommended needle size, and I'm making a size 2. So if anyone has made this project, I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on it. I've been very intentional, I think, with myself on not trying to push myself too hard on it, because I knew it would take me a while, and it's not an overnight knit, so yeah. But we are going on month 4 of it being a whip, so I'm ready to like have the finished object now. My next priority whip is my Attune Shawl, which is also an Andrea Mowry pattern. She is having her DRK March to May knit along right now, which has also kind of been a good push for me personally to get my Andrea Mowry whips like off the needles. Oh, there's Bambi. So yeah, this is my Attune Shawl. I started this last fall and then set it down, but have been picking it up more recently. It hasn't grown too much, and obviously as it grows, it's going to start taking me longer to get through each row. But I think it looks really cute so far. It's really nice and squishy. I'm knitting this in a kind of like a heavy DK worsted, almost like light worsted weight yarns, which I believe the pattern calls for like sport and DK. So if I remember correctly, I sized up on needles. I'm using a US 6. And my yarns are, this is a Wing and Prayer Farm. I think this is their Cormo base. It's really pretty. And then this is the contrast color, which is Junction Fiber Mill. It's their Making Tracks. So it's a very fun, color changing, variegated, fractal yarn. And I picked both of those up at the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival last fall in Vermont, obviously. This is brioche and half fisherman's rib, so it does require a bit of focus. I'm still a brioche newbie, So I am very worried about making mistakes when I work on this. I think I'm getting the hang of it now, but setting it down and then having to pick it up later, it takes me a little while to kind of like re-familiarize myself with it. I'm hoping I can get to a point where I have the row repeats memorized and I can work on this without having to look at the pattern, but that is not yet the case. So it does require a bit of focus. So I think that's primarily why this hasn't been moving along as quickly as I'd like, but we'll get there. I think in my mind, I'd like to wrap up the big cozy cardi in April, and then as soon as that is done, move this to like priority number 1 and have this wrapped up by the end of May. Fingers crossed. I always say these things and I'm like, that could be a little ambitious. Next whip I will talk about is in this little Woolens and Nosh bag. These are not the Advent yarn, but it is another Woolens and Nosh yarn that I picked up last fall. It's the Earth Tones Girl and Woolens and Nosh collab. The colorway is called Fall, Lean, and Love. So obviously the gorgeous like fall colors, self-striping. If you're not familiar with Woolens and Nosh, I love their sock base so much. It is thicker, in my opinion, than your typical superwash merino sock base. They use, it's I think 90% targi and then 10% nylon. And I find that I have to size down a size in the pattern to get the fit that I want. Otherwise, it's too big, which is the issue with these. So this was the first pair, or this is the first Woolens and Nosh yarn that I knitted with, and I made a top-down pair of socks, vanilla, nothing crazy, completely finished them, thought they were fitting fine the entire time, and then as soon as I finished them, put them on and just like had that moment of like, oh, these are too big and I need to rip them out because I really love this yarn. So I ripped them out in December and have just had the yarn sitting around waiting to be cast on again. One good thing about moving is that I had to go through my entire yarn stash, obviously, to pack it up and move it over. So I kind of rediscovered the hiding spot of where I had hidden this little bag with these rewound skeins in them, and really wanted to use this sock base again, so that is why I cast these on. I can't remember if I said, but it's another pair of DRK everyday socks. I almost have the pattern memorized now, I think. But yeah, I really just love the fit, especially for this type of yarn. I like that I can go from the toe up and just use as much as I can. That's kind of my mindless, easy, small, portable project that I've got going on right now. She looks so cute. Hi, little Bambi. My last whip, which is also a kind of like mindless, portable, small project that I've been working on just kind of when I feel like it, is a self-drafted hat. About a month or so ago, Sister Mountain, and I'm blanking on her name now, who runs it, but she has a platform where she teaches how to write knitting patterns. And she had a little like mini challenge. It was a 5-day thing of creating a hat pattern. So I signed up for that just because I was curious about it. I don't know that I'm trying to design anything, but more so just to make things for myself. It's a nice introduction into the process. Obviously, just 5 days and just a hat. It was like a very brief overview of what goes into designing a knitting pattern, but I had a lot of fun nonetheless. You start with, you know, doing your sketches and picking your yarn, and she kind of talks you through on like some very light grading for patterns and what goes into that. So I did really like the whole get into Excel and do all of the math and kind of like grade things out. So that was a fun that was a fun portion of it. But yeah, this is where I'm at with this hat so far. So I haven't gotten very far. I haven't even gotten to the exciting part. I'm still working on the brim. I really want a like thick, tall brim. So I'm gonna try to, I think I want like 3.5 or so folded brim is kind of what I'm thinking. And then I have like a textured stitch pattern that I'm going to try to do for the rest of the hat. This is my swatch. Nothing crazy, just knits and purls. And then I have some like ideas in my head on how I want to do the decreasing, but I haven't actually worked that out on how it's going to happen. So that will be a fun experiment whenever I get there. Worst case scenario, I just rip all of that out and make a ribbed hat. It's a worsted weight yarn. I'm using Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in this really pretty marled colorway. I think it's called Narwhal. It's a gray and a white marl. And I have a bunch of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in my stash, actually. Not a huge quantity, but I have a lot of like half skeins. I feel like it was like 2019. I had a really big Brooklyn Tweed, specifically Shelter phase, and knit a bunch of things in that yarn. So I have a lot of little bits and leftovers. And my sister actually got me 2 skeins of this for Christmas, maybe around 2018, 2017 it might have been. I don't know. It was a while ago. So when I kind of found these skeins in my stash, I was really excited to kind of rediscover Brooklyn Tweed Shelter because I haven't worked with it for a while. So I'm using a US 5 for the ribbing, and then my swatch for the textured stitch pattern was in a US 6. I pulled out some of my fixed wooden needles for this. I think just because I was feeling like I wanted to knit with wood needles. I have the Chaigu interchangeable set, which I love, and now because of it I almost exclusively knit with metal needles, but I have a lot of wood and bamboo fixed circular needles because that was my preference before I got my interchangeable set. So I kind of pulled out some needles and have been really enjoying knitting with wooden needles again. I've been kind of thinking of getting a wood interchangeable set just to have. Thought that'd be fun. There's a set that Petite Knit uses that I think is really hard to hunt down. So I've been looking on the internet. I've been looking around, but we'll see. If you have a wooden interchangeable set that you love, please let me know. And I think that's it for my knitting. On the spinning front, I have not been spinning all that much because it's been a little crazy with the move and everything, obviously. But this last weekend I pulled out my e-spinner, my beloved Ashford e-spinner 3 that I've been loving so much. I just got her a couple months ago, I guess. And I'm working on a big sweater spin on my Ashford e-spinner 3. I have just under 16 ounces of fiber left to spin. It's all Hello Yarn dyed top, 100% Targi, and I will insert either a photo or a video or something. But yes, I'm spinning all of that up to hopefully knit the DRK Weekender, another Andrea Mowry. I have not made a whole lot of progress on that project, but I am trying to kind of motivate myself to spin at least 4 ounces a week. So then by the end of April, I'll be able to ply everything up and then hopefully start knitting the sweater sometime in April. Plying could take a while, but I don't think it'll take as long as actually spinning the singles. Yeah, that is exciting. I have a bunch of other spinning projects that are kind of in the queue and I've been thinking about a lot, so I'm excited to get into those soon, but I'm really focused on finishing this sweater spin first. Last little bit, I thought it'd be fun to maybe share some things that I'm reading and watching, and I also have some YouTube channels that I want to shout out that I've really been enjoying recently. So if you have any podcast recommendations, TV show recommendations, books, I'm transitioning into audiobooks right now, so if there's anything in that realm, please share. I would love to hear. On audiobook, I have been listening to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Can't remember the name of the author off the top of my head, but I will link to the book below. I'm really enjoying it. It's a novel that kind of follows these game designers and friends and just the story of their friendship and their work life together, and yeah, it's really good. On the podcast front, I've been listening to the latest season of On Being with Krista Tippett. It, I think, comes out every Thursday, but they just started up a new season. They kind of took a hiatus, and I was really worried that they weren't going to come back because it's one of my favorite podcasts. I would highly recommend. Krista Tippett has worked for NPR. She was a journalist, has worked for NPR, I believe, for a very, very long time, and just has a perfect podcast voice. So love her and love that podcast. And then on the watching front, so for TV, my boyfriend and I just finished watching The Last of Us, which is scary but really well done. Would recommend watching it during daylight hours because at night it's really spooky. I do not do well with scary things, and especially zombie things really freak me out, but it was less zombie-y than I thought it was gonna be, and you definitely get very invested in the main characters and their storyline. So would recommend with an asterisk. Proceed with caution maybe on that. And then complete opposite end, I've started Vanderpump Rules, which my friends have been trying to get me to watch for a while. I think the 10th season is currently being released right now, but I'm starting with the beginning. But I went back to season 1. I think I'm about halfway through at this point, and I think it came out in 2010, 2011. It's very dated looking, which is funny because that was only 10 years ago, but it's kind of crazy how you can tell the exact point in time of when this show was made based on mostly just the clothes and the haircuts. It's funny, but I dabble in the Real Housewives and the Kardashians and the Bachelor franchise, so I'm not unfamiliar with reality TV by any means, and I know that it's silly, but sometimes you just need something, where you can completely shut your brain off and watch these silly people do silly things on TV. So that's where we're at. YouTube channels though, hopefully you're still with me because I do have some knitting channels that I wanted to share, and we'll obviously have them linked below. Please check them out. I have been loving their videos and their channels and everything. So the first one is Hannah at Pages and Purls. She's also in New York. So hey Hannah, let's see, I've got 3 more. Hailey at The Knit Weekend. Emily of Knitting is Cool. Last one is Alex of the Serenity Knitting Society. Hi. Last little bit. I have 3 non-knitting channels that I also want to share that have just recently come into my life. The first is Chelsea Callahan. She also lives in New York, but does kind of like very realistic New York City life vlogs. I also think she is really funny and has a lot of good like life insights. Really love her kind of video style and what she's making. And then we've got Cozy K, who I recently found. She does a lot of like cozy lifestyle videos, and then also she streams video games. But actually she's been streaming a few games that I'm really want to play. And I used to play video games growing up, and I think that's kind of like what led me to working in tech, but I haven't played games in quite some time. But now that I live with my boyfriend who has a PlayStation and an Xbox, I'm like, I could actually play some games now. It could be fun. So yeah, so she's got some like cozy games that I think would be fun to play. They're not like scary games. And the last one is Katie May, and she is an artist and illustrator based in Philly, I believe. And she does a lot of really cool kind of like studio vlogs and just like kind of art vlogs about her art and like creative process. She has a really cool Patreon account where she sends out like monthly illustrated goodies and stuff, and her Instagram is also very, very cute, and her artwork is amazing. We made it to the end. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please don't forget to put a question in a comment down below if you'd like to submit anything for our Knit and Chat that is going to come up pretty soon. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and feel free to subscribe if you'd like to stick around and see more videos from me. I've been trying to upload every Sunday, so stay tuned. I hope you got to make something fun today. So happy making, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy whatever you're into. I will talk to you soon. Bye.